Hello everyone, we will continue the topic hook methods as a part of Dynpro ABAP. And in the previous videos, firstly we understood the meaning of hook methods. Then we started with the hook methods at the view level and we covered WDDO init method as a part of view. And in the previous video, we covered one of the most important point. The WDDO init method is available at component controller level, at the view level, and at the window level also. Then what is the triggering sequence? Firstly, system calls the WDDO init method of component controller, then window, and then view. And it is one of the extremely important concept from the interview perspective. Now, into this particular video, we will cover another hook method as a part of view, and that is WDDO modify view. Firstly, we are covering hook methods at the view level. So now it's a turn to cover WDDO modify view. Now, this method also calls before displaying a particular view, but this method calls every time before displaying a particular view. By mistake, I have written the word class. I just changed it to calls. So this method also calls before displaying a particular view, but this method calls every time before displaying a particular view. Just simply compare it to WDDO init method, because many people will think at this point of time WDDO init method also calls before displaying a particular view. WDDO modify view method also calls before displaying a particular view. Then what is the difference between both of them? WDDO init method calls only once before displaying a particular view. WDDO modify view method calls every time before displaying a particular view. This is first and one of the most important difference between WDDO init and WDDO modify view method. Now we will simply compare it to classical report. WDDO init method is just like an initialization event of classical report. WDDO modify view method is just like add selection screen output event of classical report. Those who have the knowledge of classical report event, they can easily understand. Suppose if I will go for classical report events program. If you do not have this program, no problem. Anyways, you just need to understand the flow. Suppose this is one of the program in which I used classical report events. Suppose I'm putting a breakpoint as a part of add selection screen output event. I'm putting a breakpoint as a part of initialization event. So initialization will only calls once, but this add selection screen output event triggers every time. Suppose if I'm running this particular program. Now, firstly, system will call initialization event trigger. Now, after that, system will call add selection screen output, because this event also calls before displaying a selection screen or input screen. Now, after that, whatever I will do onto this selection screen or input screen, initialization will never call, because initialization event only calls once. After that, whatever I will do, which system will call which particular event, add selection screen output, because this event calls every time before displaying the selection screen or input screen. Suppose I'm selecting this particular checkbox. System is not calling initialization. System is simply calling add selection screen output event. Same thing is applicable now in Dynpro ABAP. WDDO init method will only trigger once. WDDO modify view method triggers every time before displaying a particular view. Suppose I will take a Dynpro component, I will put a breakpoint and we will understand. Suppose I am taking any Dynpro component, you can take any Dynpro component, it is totally your wish. I am setting a breakpoint into WDDO init method of the view. I am setting a breakpoint into WDDO modify view method of the view. So this method is at the view level. Now I am running this Dynpro application. Firstly, system will call WDDO init method. So breakpoint will stop there. You can see system is calling WDDO init method. Now system will call WDDO modify view because this method also calls before displaying a particular view. Now view appeared. After that, whatever I will do onto this particular view, WDDO init method will never trigger. So system will trigger WDDO modify view before displaying this particular view. Suppose if I'm going for document number 1 to 10 and I'm clicking on to search button, now WDDO init will not trigger. System will simply call WDDO modify view method. And now we have the result. So this is the main difference between WDDO init and WDDO modify. This only call once and this calls every time before displaying a particular view. Now we will go for next important point. What is the purpose of WDDO init method? We are providing the initial values to the attributes, context node. Yes, whenever we want to go for some initial one-time initialization logic, we are using this WDDO init method. Now, what is the purpose of WDDO modify view? Firstly, word itself is there, modify view, modify view. So the major purpose of WDDO modify view method is to modify the UI element properties dynamically, user interface element properties dynamically. Suppose we want to hide these UI elements. We want to make these UI elements invisible. We want to make these UI elements mandatory. Depends upon some condition. So whenever you want to modify the UI elements, you always have to use this particular event. Just simply compare it to add selection screen output event. But the purpose of add selection screen output event, its purpose is to modify the selection screen or input screen. Same thing is here. Now, rather than selection screen or input screen, we have view. And whatever the UI elements are there on the view, we are changing the properties of them. We are making them visible, we are making them invisible, we are making them mandatory, depends upon the condition. So at that time, we need to use this particular method, WDDO modify. Suppose if I will come on to our classical report events program, suppose I'm selecting this, I'm deselecting this particular checkbox. Whenever I'm deselecting, so after that, if I will go for execute, the currency column is not available. So I'm changing the selection screen elements, yes. So where I have written the logic, I have written the logic in add selection screen output event. Suppose if I'm selecting this particular checkbox, I have written the logic as a part of add selection screen output event. And now you can see we are able to see an extra column on the selection screen or input screen. So purpose of this event add selection screen output is to modify the selection screen. Same thing is here. Now we want to, whenever we want to modify the UI elements which is available on the view, we need to always take the help of this particular method. Now we will go for another important point. This method has one parameter, first underscore time. If I will go for WDDO modify view method, this method has one parameter, first underscore time. What is the purpose of this parameter? Name itself is suggesting first underscore time. This particular parameter tells us the view is displaying for the first time or view is not displaying for the first time. Whenever view is displaying for the first time, this value is capital X. If the value is space, it means the view is not calling for the first time. Once the practical will start, you will understand the importance of this parameter. Whenever the view is getting displayed for the first time, this parameter has the value capital X. After that, in the subsequent display, this parameter value is equal to space. Suppose I have a breakpoint here. I'm running this particular application. Now I am displaying view for the first time. So firstly, system will go into debugging mode. Init method triggers. Now WDDO modify. Now our view is getting displayed for the first time. Now you can see the value of this parameter is capital X. So it indicates that your view is getting displayed for the first time. Now I am doing F8. Suppose I will just go for another application where I can show you. Suppose here I do not have any action. I do not have any button. So I will show you here. Because in that there is no button. So I cannot show you how to go for modify view again. Suppose this is init. This is modify. Now our view is getting displayed for the first time. What is the value of this parameter? Capital X. Now I'm going for entry 1 to 10. I'm clicking on to search button. Now modify view is not getting triggered for the first time. Yes, we are again calling the modify view because this method is calling every time. So now our view is not getting displayed for the first time. View is getting displayed for the second time, subsequent display. Now you can see if I will go for this parameter, the value of this parameter is space. So this is one of the extremely important parameter. Maximum time we ask this parameter in the interview. Yes, if you have a parameter or how you can indicate that modify view is displaying, this particular method is calling for a particular view for the first time or it is subsequent display. The answer, the parameter name is first underscore time. Now I will do F8. Now we will go for last important point. Yes, this is extremely important point and this always affects the performance if we will not follow this. Now you all know WDDO modify view method is triggering every time before displaying the view. So never write the selection logic into this particular method because you all know whenever you have selection logic, it means you are fetching the data from database table. Why we should hit the performance? Why we should go for all these things? The major purpose of this method is to change the UI element properties dynamically. So always avoid writing the select queries into this particular method because this method triggers every time. It means select queries are getting executed every time. So it highly affects the performance. So what is the summary of this particular video? Again, extremely important video because so many questions will be covered from the interview perspective. Now into this video, we started with WDDO modify view method. This method also calls before displaying a particular view. The difference is this method calls every time, whereas WDDO init method triggers only once before displaying a particular view. WDDO init method is just like initialization. It is just like add selection screen output event. The purpose of WDDO modify view method is to modify the UI element properties. Means we can make them visible, invisible, mandatory. So at that time, you can take the help of this particular event. Then we covered one of the extremely important parameter, first underscore time. Word itself is suggesting if your view is getting displayed for the first time, this parameter has the value X, which indicates that your view is getting displayed for the first time. If it has the value space, it means the view is not getting displayed for the first time. They are subsequent displayed. Now, after that, we covered one of the extremely important point, that never write the selection logic, select queries into this method, as this method triggers every time before displaying a particular view. Now, in the next video, we will simply go for the full comparison of this init and WDDO modify view method, because that is extremely important. We covered each and every point, but the full summary will be in the next video. So that's it in this video. Thank you.